Some rogue archetypes have this almighty power to perform a skill check as a bonus action. But is it actually powerful, or is it just kind of it's not really useful? That's what we're going to figure out today. Welcome to Intelligence 14 Wisdom 2. Today we're talking about the Inquisitive Rogue and the Thief Rogue, which are from Xanathars and the PHB respectively. So these two subclasses have, in addition to the regular cunning actions, dash, disengage, and hide, they have the ability to do these types of skill checks as a bonus action. These can use sleight of hand, Thieves Tools, or use an object, and Inquisitors can use perception and investigation. And so before we begin looking at these specifically and figuring out which ones are good, which ones are not that useful, we have to set some things straight first. We have to understand that these skill checks have to be used in conjunction with an action that the rogue can't already do with a bonus action. Because if you wanted to do a sleight of hand and then dash, or disengage, then you can do that with action for sleight of hand, and then bonus action, cunning action for disengage. So you can do those two without having to use the disengage as an action and sleight of hand as a bonus action. So it has to be things like, attacking or casting a spell. And another thing we have to understand is that these skill checks we have to figure out, are they useful in combat? Out of combat, we don't really deal with actions and reactions. Sure, there are, chases and dealing with traps, but those are also initiative. But besides that, just looting a room, having the ability to do a skill check as a bonus action doesn't make you any faster, necessarily. Or maybe it does, but I feel that's kind of mean, you get to do two things when everybody else gets to do one. But anyways, we're looking at specifically, can they be used in combat? So, let's begin. So Sleight of Panda is the skill check that allows you to conceal things on yourself, on other people, or taking things off of somebody else, or taking something off yourself but being stealthy about it. You don't want anybody else to notice you've taken the thing off into your hand. So that's the what we use Sleight of Hand before. Now, in combat, with monsters, it doesn't really work because, one, if they're too dumb to really figure out anyways that you have a bomb or something in your hand, and two, they don't have any pockets, do they? Unless they do, they're semi-intelligent, but then that's where we get to intelligent creatures. So not very useful against monsters, certainly useful against creatures who have items. That is, if you conceal it. If there's a wizard and they have the component pouch about them, or an arcane, there's spellcasting focus. Can you steal that from their hands? Maybe. I think if you're a wizard, you're casting your spells, you're focusing a lot, you're well aware of the fact that you have a wand. And so I'd say it'd be very hard to steal that wand out of their hand without them noticing. If they did notice, then it would be athletics to try to grapple it out of it, to pull it out. Maybe you can steal a component pouch because they've reached their arms out to cast a spell, and you slip in, grab a thing, and slip out. But certainly not things in their hands. I'd say no. Maybe if they have potions, the enemy is carrying potions, stealing that would be useful. But it's not very typical. If it does manage to happen, and if you're a DM, I encourage you to, make it so that this is a thing that happens. There are opportunities for the thief to steal things in combat and feel really cool, but in kind of the base D&D, the typical D&D, we don't really see much use of this feature. In combat, I should say. Out of combat, sleight of hand is very useful. Social encounters and pickpocketing, things like that. Now, use object, I didn't really know until I looked at the PHB, and the PHB has some really interesting equipment options that I hadn't looked at before, but they are totally cool. You can apply poisons to your weapons to deal more damage. You can throw hot holy water or an acid. There's ball bearings. There's bear traps. I think you can place as an action. It's going to be obvious, but turn a corner, bear trap. And if you have ball bearings or caltrops and you have them fall prone, then you as a thief, you can land your sneak attack, which is great. Or if you have pocket sand or something, which is I think an atrocity that D&D doesn't have any rules for pocket sand. It would be fairly simple to rule out, just throw it in, con save versus blindness for, D4 rounds, or maybe it's until they wipe it out with water or something like that. But anyways, using an object really depends on what you have in your possession. And I think the best way to try to use an object is, to use an attack, so you're trying to get the object so you can land a sneak attack, or you've already gotten your sneak attack, now you're trying to gain an advantage, or maybe, like I said, poisons, especially if you can get the poisons from the DMG, because those poisons are a lot better than the one that just does like a D4 extra damage to the weapon, which granted is pretty good, but you can get some pretty potent stuff from shady dealers. And the third thing that thieves have is the ability to use Thieves Tools, which are help you disarm traps and locks and things like that. I don't see locks coming up very much, like maybe if you're being chased through a mansion or something and lock blue. That's one way you could do it, lock and then get inside. But then again, how are you attacking and then picking the lock? Like that would be a very cool, very swashbucklery style thing. Not that swashbuckler, the subclass, but like swashbuckler style. Like I can fight you and I can pick the lock. Like excuse me, and then go in through the door. Maybe that. But I think it'd be more useful in like traps scenarios where you're facing complex traps that you have to roll initiative to face, and now you have basically 2 actions for your Thieves Tools instead of 1, which makes you really super effective, as opposed to everybody else who kind of just runs around trying not to get killed. So, it's useful in trap situations, not useful in really anywhere else, I don't think. So, overall, the thief, if you have to get really creative to use the like particularly use object. That's something you can control more, but everything else is just kind of left up to the DM. Build scenarios that you can use these things. So now let's go over to the Inquisitive Rogue, and they have 2 skills. They can use Perception and Investigation as a bonus action. And again, we're looking at, can we use that and attack? But let's start off with, let's go back to the Perception as a bonus action. And this is good in situations where you're fighting hidden enemies, you're fighting other rogues, or maybe like shadow demons who are hiding. They're like rushing forward from behind you, attacking, then going back into the shadows and sneaking around to try to attack you from another angle. You can use Perception to try to find them, and then use your action to attack them, or reconsider and say, you know what, this is a bad position. I need to get away, so I won't be in dim light. Or use an action to light a torch, perhaps, or turn on a lantern or light spell. But that's anything that would give you an advantage. So hiding, it's a defense against hiding, which I think is really good as an investigation. You should be able to combat an investigation fighter type character. You should be able to, be useful against these enemies who are hidden. And investigation is the stat we use for looting, which, unless they have like a magic item on them they're trying to find, and like hidden on them in the middle of combat, you need to get it and then get out. Maybe. And so I originally dismissed this as like kind of a just, why would I even use this in combat? I kill everybody and then search for clues later. Or subdue everybody, whatever it is. But anyways, I thought this was going to be just like a dud. Until I realized that investigation also works on illusions. You see, most illusions, they have you make an action to make an investigation check, which is how you normally do it. You take the search action to make an investigation check against this illusion to determine whether it's real. And if it's real, you stop seeing it. And if it doesn't have any effects on you, those stop occurring. Which is great. You can do that as a bonus action now, as an Inquisitive. So, if the enemy has summoned this horrible, nightmarish creature, make an investigation check. Try to see if it's, if that's actually a thing. I think it would be so cool. The wizard summons this I think it's like phantasmal force or something, and summons, I don't know, spiders or something, or snakes, or your phobia or whatever, and you're like, nope, and then you can shoot them if you're fairly confident that that's an actual thing that they summon, or you can shoot the wizard if you're like, they just illusion. And now I want to just sing the praises of Wizards of the Coast for a moment, because they designed the Inquisitive to be useful against illusions. There's the feature later, Unerring Eye. They can check against, they can find illusions much better than other people. And you're in a magical world where illusions are part of the tools people use to commit crimes, so illusions are a thing that you should be able to counter against. So if you're a detective in a magical world, you'd be the Inquisitive. And so that's a great thinking by wizards. So, but overall, I think skill checks as a bonus action is a very niche skill. For the thief ones, everything except use an object really depends on the DM to set up scenarios where you can use it, and you have to think and realize, okay, I can use that. But use an object really depends on what you're spending your money on, which is actually, I think, going to be interesting, going to find specific sellers of poisons. That'd be a great quest to go on, as long as your DM knows that you're going to go on beforehand, so they can prepare somebody. But that's cool, and also the Inquisitives, their perception and their investigation, useful against certain types, certain tactics that the enemy uses. Again, it's going to be up to the DM whether that actually comes up. If you're just fighting a bunch of orcs all day, then you're not going to get that out of the Inquisitive. Now, I can't think of any relevant video on my channel pertaining to this video, but I'll just point you towards whatever videos YouTube serves up that it thinks you might be interested in. Oh, actually, that's a great one. Go check that one out.